morning, Genesis.
Morning.
Good morning.
Why don't we all get up on our feet and let's sing our opening song with Second Shot. Get your heart going, get us ready to be open for service. Welcome everybody here at Carco Theater and those watching online, possibly viewing on YouTube. We're very excited to be here this morning here in Renton, Washington at Carco Theater. It's a good day. Thank you. So those of you who are attending for the first time online, you're invited to say hello to Cal Boyle. He is our communication link. And Genesis is continuing its minister search. We have our profile and invitational video available for review on the CSL Minister Listserv. Once we start receiving resumes, and I guess we should change that a bit because we are receiving resumes. We'll have more information to share as time goes on. In the meantime, let us all join together in saying our new minister's Sacred Covenant Easy Prayer. There is only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. In knowing that I am one with this life that is God, I therefore know that I am one with all its blessed expressions, which includes the presence of a new minister for my beloved spiritual community. Because I know the highest purpose of my new minister is to glorify God, I therefore know that my new minister is a revelation of God as love. I further know that my new minister is the fulfillment of that which has been promised by God. For it is written, I dwell in the house of love. Love attends me in my home of the soul. I shall never leave this home of the spirit. I shall abide in this home forevermore. As I stand in agreement with my beloved community, I see my new minister before me as revealing the truth and power of love. I now intend to experience my new minister in full cooperation and agreement with my community, knowing the truth that myself for. I am powerfully expressing divine love, inspiring all to do the same. I am blessing and honoring all paths of spirituality, awakening deeper truths and spiritual growth. I am a place where God shows up, expressing divine love, allowing truth and joy to heal all. I am embracing, teaching, and exploring spiritual truths from diverse spiritual teachings. I am teaching and embodying prosperity, trusting that God is the source of my good. As I now accept the highest expression of a new minister into my life, I know that they will be revealed in a way that will glorify God and serve the highest and greatest good of all who are touched by their presence. I am grateful God is gracious. Amen. So now let's move to our announcements. These are just reminders of what is happening. For detailed information about the following events, please check out our website, our Facebook pages, Eventbrite, and our meetup pages. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m., join Karen Williams, practitioner, and Cynthia Zink, practitioner, for intention circles via Zoom. A love offering is appreciated. Now, if any of you are interested in joining a care circle, Genesis Care Circles meet at least once a month in a member's home or via Zoom for approximately 2.5 hours to do spiritual practice. We also share and care and connect with fellow members. We follow a structured meeting curricular that supports and celebrates spiritual and personal growth. If you are not in a care circle now and would like more information on how to join, please contact Karen Williams via Facebook or visit her when she's here at Carco. First timers. Is there anyone attending Genesis either in person here that's a first timer? If so, and you're comfortable, please stand up and introduce yourself. Good morning. Hi, Patricia. Nice to meet you. Welcome. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Cal, anybody? No, just the old suspects, huh? Okay, great. Family. Love it. All right, so before we get going on with the service, does anyone need a prayer card or a giving envelope? If so, raise your hand and Andrew will come around and hand those out. Right down here, Andrew. Thank you. So I would like to take a moment to thank our volunteers. The only reason we're able to do what we do here at Genesis is due to our volunteers. So really a deep-hearted thanks and shout out to each one of these individuals. Practitioner Cynthia Zink is our volunteer coordinator. You probably got to meet her when you were coming in the door. Jim Munson is running sound for us and making sure we are sounding perfect out there in the video land. Michael Johns is running our projectors and doing the video feed. And Andrew Young is our usher and will be collecting our offering. And as I mentioned before, Cal is your communication link if you're watching online. Today our practitioner is Christine S. Young. And she led a meditation before service. And if you missed it, it was a really grounding meditation that reminded us that there's so much more going on every single breath that we take than we realize. And it's just slowing down and being grateful and appreciative of that circulation that we all experience in each and every moment. That meditation service will be available for 30 days, and I highly recommend you check it out. So at this time, I would like to bring up Miss Christine S. Young as we continue our service. Thank you.
So to get our sacred part of our service started this morning, we get to open in my favorite way to pray, and that is we get to sing. So I invite you to stand, and please join us in our song, Use Me. As we just allow that sound to resonate through our being, we just allow that process of opening through song, through the sound of our gong. And from that open space, I invite you to hear our reading for this morning. I've selected a reading from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear is the great enemy of man. But fear is a mental attitude, and as such can be converted into something else. Fear is the reverse mental attitude to faith, and is a result of the lack of faith. Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake, and destroys the happiness and possibility of a greater degree of livingness to those who suffer from it. Fear blocks the more complete givingness of the Spirit to its highest form of manifestation on this planet, which is mankind. Fear arises from that mental attitude which limits the possibility and the willingness of Spirit to give us the good we so greatly desire. There is nothing wrong in the desire for self-expression. God is more completely expressed through the one who lives largely than through the one who lives meagerly. And also, no good can come to us unless it make its advent through the center of God consciousness, which we are. The hope of destiny is latent in the slumbering thought, and genius lies buried until the attention is winged with love and reason. To help those in need is indeed a great privilege, but the blind cannot lead the blind. We must awake to the realization that a divine partnership has already been formed between the seen and the invisible. Unless there were a unifying principle of life existing as one all-embracing mind in which everyone lives and everything subsists, then we could not recognize each other. Indeed, we could not be conscious of living in the same world. In this mind, which we live, is at all times independent of any individual action on our part. We are in it, and it flows through us, but it is always more than we are.
That's good.
So I'd like to invite you now to just join me in prayer. We recognize that one life, that one mind, which is love in full expression. And so in this first step of prayer, we more deeply again recognize there is one mind, one life, which is love in expression. And as we allow the awareness that there is only one mind, one life, which is love and expression, to move deeply into our being, we recognize I individually am a reflection and an expression of that one mind, that one life that expresses through love. So from that recognition, from that unification, knowing my truth, I just speak my word, that today is the day that is mine to have, to live, to express, to be. So I agree to be in the flow of love that is available today. I allow myself to be fully all in, committed to the dance of life. I allow myself to fully express the love that is God itself all around. And I'm just so deeply grateful for this opportunity to do this in community with my spiritual community, in community with all of those in whom I have proximity today, be it physical or online or just in thought. I'm just so grateful to be in the practice of expressing love. And so, with my heart rich and full with purpose, I release this unto the law, knowing it is done so in this very moment, now and always. And with deep gratitude we say, and so it is. Amen. It is my great privilege to introduce to you our musician this morning. Her name is Joan Penny, and I learned she drives all the way down from Mount Vernon to be with us, and we are so blessed. Please help me welcome Joan Penny and Second Shot.
right there. Thank you very much. That was a good message. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be back. We're our third week in our Hot Topics series. We started talking about abortion. That was 2 weeks ago. It was a great talk, if I say so myself. A lot of interesting ideas and information in that talk. You can still see it online. And then last week, Karen Williams talked about January 6th. Today, I'm going to talk about guns. So, what I want to say first and foremost is to acknowledge that it is 9/11. And it's 21 years since the 9/11 attacks. And much like people in my generation remember where you were when we heard that Kennedy was assassinated, everyone alive today who was born before then knows where they were when the 9/11 attacks happened. These are big events that mark certain periods of time in our lives, and I think it's important to acknowledge that this happened. Now, I am talking about guns, and what I want to say first and foremost is you may hate guns, you may love guns. You may be for gun control legislation, you may be opposed to gun control legislation. You may very well have come to a complete and final decision about guns, gun violence, mass shootings, the Second Amendment, and all the other issues related to guns. You have your feelings, your opinions, and your convictions about this issue, maybe even arrived at long before you attended or tuned into this service today. And that is fine. I respect that. I respect you, and I respect that you have your experience, your convictions, your opinions. And my request, before we go any further, is that you bring an open mind to the present moment. I'm asking you to bring an open mind to the present moment. I want to ask you to ask yourself the question, do I already know everything there is to know about this issue? Is evolution about my convictions, opinions, and decisions about this issue or these issues possible for me? Could I actually learn something during this service today? That's what I'm asking you. Okay. Be willing to hear something you haven't heard before. Be willing to see the issue from a different point of view. Be willing to experience an evolution of your understanding of the gun issue and issues related to it. And I'm not asking you to do anything I haven't already been doing this week. And I have been doing my research in preparation for this talk, and one of the first things that happened last weekend, I was in line at the grocery store, and this was sitting there. It's the Life magazine, History of the Rifle, the weapon that changed the world. And I was like, ugh, I think I need that. Thank you, Jesus. There it was. All right. Now, to be completely honest, there's two things about me that are true in relationship to guns. The first is, as an American, I am steeped in movies, plays, books that are rife with guns. How many of us have seen countless Westerns, World War II movies, Korean War movies, Vietnam War movies, Afghanistan War movies, cop shows, murder mysteries, revenge films. They call it revenge porn now, like these Liam Neeson films. You know, I have a specific set of skills. One of those set of skills is shooting a gun. Okay? So, on the one hand, I have seen guns fired countless times on TV and movie theaters and in live theater. And yet, I personally have never touched a gun. I've never held a gun. I've never fired a gun. And I've never seen someone fire a gun. And those two things are true. I've seen it countless times portrayed. I've never actually experienced it firsthand. This is something I just need to put out there. I don't know if it's true for you. Certainly the part about seeing lots of guns fired. And this magazine was such a gift Because the first thing that I noticed was, it's a weapon that changed the world. And I also noticed in reading this thing, a lot of pictures of a lot of different kinds of guns, is I learned that I could find a respect and appreciation for the fact that so many people have worked for hundreds of years to refine a machine that could fire projectiles. Like, a lot of discoveries and a lot went into the creation of what we now have as modern guns. And I learned that the word rifle comes from rifling, or the technique of carving spiral grooves inside the barrel of a rifle in order to give a bullet a spinning trajectory, because this makes it more accurate. So now I know how the word rifle came to be. And that's very interesting. And this magazine helped me get in the mindset of hunters and generals and soldiers over many generations who have needed ever more refined versions of handguns to get an advantage in their need to kill, whether it's an animal or a human animal. Homo sapiens started out with rocks and sticks and clubs and spears and bows and arrows, and then flaming arrows, and then swords, sabers, and catapults. And the precursor to the musket was invented in the 1300s, and that musket took 7 minutes to load, and often blew up in the face of the person who was going to fire it. So that wasn't great. Just as horseless carriages were intended to be an improvement in transportation over horse and carriage, I mean, think of all those poor horses and streets filled with horse manure and dead horse bodies. Right? The combustion engine was to be an improvement, right? And actually, the guy who invented the first machine gun, called the Gatling gun, thought that this would reduce death. Didn't always work out that way. A lightweight, reliable, accurate handgun capable of shooting 6 rounds without reloading is a major accomplishment. And improvements made in handgun manufacture were a significant factor in America winning the War of Independence. I didn't know that. Having superior guns, American sharpshooters could take out British officers from 300 yards away. This is a significant innovation, and that really destroyed British soldiers' morale. You take out the officer, it destroys the morale of all the others. The first Pilgrim settlers all brought guns with them. First to eat wild animals and to fight off Native Americans, thieves, and eventually soldiers from other countries. You could say our country was born out of the barrel of a gun. And this is important to remember when we look at some statistics about our current situation. When the Supreme Court was considering the Second Amendment in 2008, and this was deciding whether or not the Second Amendment meant an individual right to own a gun or just for militias to be formed, I remember thinking the Founding Fathers didn't spell out an individual's right to own a gun because everyone, or every white person, had a gun in those days. If someone was breaking into your house in 1790, you didn't call 911, and the police didn't come in a few minutes. Everyone had a gun. I think it was so obvious that I don't even think the Founding Fathers needed to put it in the Constitution. So I wasn't surprised when, or I wasn't particularly troubled when the Supreme Court, decided that it meant individual rights, because I think it was obvious. Given that our country was created out of the gun culture of the settlers who used guns to chase Native Americans away from the East Coast to the West Coast, the North and South borders, subjugated millions of African slaves, and fought a revolutionary war for independence from, at various times, England, France, and Spain. And given the lawlessness of the Western frontier, it should not come as a surprise that Americans own more guns per capita than any other country on earth. There's 120 guns for every 100 American citizens. The next closest country is Yemen. There's 53 guns for every 100. And then it goes down from there. Like, we have way, way more guns than any other country. The Small Arms Survey holds that U.S. civilians alone account for 393 million, or 46% of the worldwide total of civilian firearms ownership. And nearly 53 people are killed each day by firearms in the U.S. So we would not have what we have today without guns. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Americans love their guns, really love their guns, and it's deep inside our historical and cultural DNA. And I have two other facts about guns in America I wanted to share this morning that surprised me. Did you know that Congress passed a law in 1995 that bans spending any government money on research on gun violence? Yeah, for over 20 years, Congress has banned spending any money on research on gun violence. So, if our lives are ruled by truth, how are we going to know the truth if we don't do any research? Just a thought. And multiple studies have shown that having a gun in your home makes you less safe and more likely to be the victim of gun violence. And yet, as gun violence increases, more people buy guns. So a downward spiral in safety appears to be the result. So two facts. We can't spend government money researching gun violence, and the more violence, the more guns, the more guns, the more gun violence. That's where we are today. So what's the spiritual view of this issue? And so I'm going to ask everyone to take a nice deep breath. This is supposed to be church and not a history lesson. Okay, so what's the spiritual view? And on this point, I have very bad news for gun owners and gun lovers. The two greatest spiritual beings in the history of the human race, in my opinion, Jesus, and the Buddha, both notorious pacifists. The Buddha's father, who was a king in Nepal, saw an astrologer when the Buddha was born, and the astrologer predicted that his son would either be a great warrior or a great spiritual sage. And the father did everything he could to train his son to be a great warrior, because he was not interested in having his son be some guy running around in an orange robe. It was not what the king wanted for his son. And we know how that turned out. The Buddha totally committed to nonviolence. Greatest teacher of peace in the ancient world. Jesus would rather have been spit upon, have his beard pulled out, beaten, whipped, and crucified than lifting a finger against his tormentors. You cannot be more pacifist than that. During his arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane, his disciple Peter cut someone's ear off, and Jesus said, "Don't do that. Put that sword down. God is my protection." He was not just against not being violent himself, but he was not going to let any of his followers be violent. And what about Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, the Pope, the Dalai Lama, Bishop Tutu, the Amish, the Quakers, Seventh-day Adventists? There are Christians who advocate for guns. I don't think they have a theological or logical or reasonable leg to stand on. You can't be a follower of Jesus and be for killing. I don't see how that works, personally. This is me. I saw a photo of a guy at a gun rights protest, and his t-shirt had a very muscular Jesus and was holding two guns like this. And the logo and the slogan underneath said, "Jesus was an American." And I thought, that is just so great. That is so great. First of all, there were no guns when Jesus was alive. Guns didn't come for another 1,300 years. And America did not exist when Jesus was alive. So, I'm sorry, Jesus was not a gun-loving American. But what that t-shirt is so great is it proves that we create God in our own image. And as far as that person is concerned, he worships a Jesus who goes to the gym and has guns, and lives in America and speaks English. So what is the spiritual point of view? I want to remind us that we are at the meeting place of heaven and earth. That's not just a slogan. I take that phrase very seriously. Each of us is at the meeting place of heaven and earth. We are spiritual beings in physical form. We are both angels and animals. All manner of living beings, from microbes to the great apes, kill. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Armies of ants fight wars. Species invade and colonize other species' territories. How much money does Washington State spend to try and fend off invasive species? Plants, bugs, fish. Big fish eats the little fish, and bigger fish eats the big fish. Nature is cruel. And so, because we are animals, we have guns. Bloodlust, a mostly masculine trait, is very real. That's why we have mercenaries. Professional soldiers who will wage war for money wherever you send them. I think that it's my personal conviction that some serial killers are the bloodlust impulse in an individual that has no outlet. It is biological. When we were little bands in little isolated places in the world, our enemies were wild animals and other human beings. We needed some individuals who had bloodlust, who had the need to draw blood in order to survive. That is the aspect of us which is animal. Nature is cruel, but we don't have to be. Generations ago, when young people were protesting the war in Vietnam, protesters asked the question, what if you had a war and no one showed up? That's possible for us. And I believe with all my heart that that is where we are headed. I believe that we are here not only to experience being animals, these bodies are animalistic. We do all kinds of things that are very animalistic with these bodies. And as far as guns in America go, although 40% of U.S. households have at least one gun, nearly 3/4 of Americans think that gun violence is a big problem. I don't know what the other 25% think. I don't know how you can open a paper and think that gun violence is not a serious problem. So I'm as troubled by the 25% as I am encouraged by the 3/4. Yikes! The vast majority of us support universal background checks, keeping people with serious mental health issues from buying guns, bans on assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines, and red flag laws that let police and family members seek court orders to temporarily take guns away from those considered a risk to themselves and others. And I just have to believe that if it's something like 80 and 90% of Americans support all of these things, I believe that truth will win out. I believe that we will eventually see laws that bring some of these limitations to the table. And whether or not the laws get on the books, it is our gun culture. It is our gun culture. It is our love of guns. It is our built into our history that we need guns to settle our problems. That is the deeper problem, because laws don't necessarily change consciousness. There have been over 300 mass shootings in the U.S. so far this year. But even more shocking is the fact that deaths from mass shootings are only 1% of gun deaths. That's an incredible fact to me. We've had 300 mass shootings, and all of the deaths in the mass shootings are only 1% of all of our gun deaths. That's something to think about. Many more deaths are from suicide. In fact, 50% of our gun deaths are from suicide. 50%. And then domestic violence situations and other crimes. Houston, we have a problem. Here's what I know to be true, because the truth heals. I'm here to speak truth. Every time someone kills or wounds someone else, they have incurred a karmic debt. They have a soul connection with that person that must be worked out on some plane of existence or another. If you kill someone, maim someone, wound someone, you are bound to that soul until forgiveness or reciprocity has been achieved. Our circumstances around guns today are the result of what has gone before. This is very comforting to me because there is an explanation for why we have such a problem with guns. People look at our gun situation in despair and go, how can this be? Well, the life that we are living follows a great chain of cause and effect. And there is a reason for everything. And you trace things back, you see where they start. And because there is a logical and reasonable explanation for everything, there is a logical and reasonable unfoldment through which we heal from these challenging things. I don't believe that we have always had the gun problem we have today. I don't think the human race has always had the gun problem we have today. I don't think we will always have the gun problems we have today. I don't think the human race will always have the gun problems we have today. And in fact, we have fewer wars. We have less war today than we've ever had. Maybe it's because we have these nuclear bombs that we would just take each other out completely, and it kind of is a big old wake-up call. And as times evolve, everything we're doing today to solve our problems with guns will have a positive resonance for future generations. So no matter where you are about guns, you love them, you hate them. Control them, don't control them. Give up on them, ignore the issue. Whatever you're doing or not doing about guns contributes to the unfoldment. And I'm calling on you today to be awake, get the information, be thoughtful, participate as a citizen. Don't give up your right. So many people gave up their lives over many generations for us to have the vote, and like 50% of Americans don't bother. Boy, there are a lot of countries where they would kill to have the chance to vote. And half of us don't bother. And also we have an option. World War II raged all around them, and Switzerland said, no thank you. That's one of the most amazing things to me when I review world history, and when I review the history of World War II. Everywhere, all around them. Switzerland's just this little country, smack dab in the middle of all of it. They're surrounded by the war, and they just said, we're not playing. Who has the highest per capita income in the world? Switzerland! How about that? How about that? They had a war, and they didn't show up for it. Just a thought. And Costa Rica abolished their military in 1949. What is the most stable and prosperous country in Central America? Costa Rica gave up their entire military in 1949. Most prosperous, stable democracy in Central America. Jesus would rather have been tortured to death than lift a finger against his tormentors. What is the spiritual response to the issue of guns? Jesus would rather have been tortured to death than lift a finger. Let's pray. So let's take a deep breath together. Let us give thanks that life is eternal. Let us give thanks that God is good and goodness reigns supreme throughout all the realms of being and becoming. Let us give thanks for our angelic and animal natures. Let us give thanks for the evolution of the species and the evolution of consciousness individually and collectively. Let us give thanks that all of our problems resolve themselves in time, and no problem is too much for the infinite invisible to overcome. Let us give thanks that karma is perfect, that no one gets away with anything, that any and all transgressions that we perpetuate against each other, we do resolve. We do meet the souls that we have issues with, and we do forgive, we do embrace, we do harmonize, we do release. Let us give thanks that a life on this planet that is free of military conflict is possible. And we are closer to it than we have ever been. This is the good news today, that God is still the only power active and operating in our lives. And as we are awake to the goodness, the kindness, the strength, the beauty, the power, the perfection of the divine, we partake of that same perfection. And peace, the peace that passes all understanding, is ours. And for this, I do give thanks, and so it is.
I need a moment after this service. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to our prayer cards and offering. So everybody should have received one of these yellow prayer cards. So if you have not done so already, please take this out and craft a prayer. Something that you would like, just more of in your life, or maybe there's something that you want to release. So let us take just a moment to craft a prayer. So as we complete our prayers, please know that these will be held in the hearts of the practitioners here at Genesis. And if you are online, you can go to genesiscsl.org and put your prayer request in there, and that too will be held in our hearts for this coming week. And now let us go ahead and move on to our giving. Know that Genesis is supported by God, and you're welcome to help and support this, knowing that, as we give, we so shall receive. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to give to a place that fills me up so much. So let us go ahead and craft our gift. Why don't we go ahead and hold our prayer cards and our offerings next to our heart and say our offering blessing together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am thankful. So let us go ahead and sing our song of abundance as Andrew comes around and collects our prayers and gifts. Basket. It is filling my heart with love, as I know that as we circulate, we get to experience life at a higher level, at a higher playing field. It's just a new game when you're in the game of life, giving all that you have. So with that, I say thank you, God. And so it is. All right. Before we do our closing song, I'd like to thank you all for coming and spending. Shoo! I got a money consciousness on my mind still. Thanks for sharing your day with us, whether you're watching here on Sunday morning or if you're catching us online later. So let us please go ahead and stand up and sing our closing song. Thank you, Jen.